Okay, what's up, guys? Today we're going to talk about something that I know a lot of people have issues with, and something I've been dealing with since I was probably, I would say the first time I started struggling with back pain, I was maybe 20. And this happened. I was actually sitting on the floor, I was just painting my toenails, and all of a sudden I felt a slip and I felt this twinge in my back. And I couldn't walk. It was so painful. And so I was referred to a chiropractor and went one time. It was amazing. I felt better. Everything was great. But slowly over time, I kept having more issues. So every single time that twinge would happen in my hip or my lower back, it was worse each time. And, I've always been really active and I've always stretched, been flexible, strong. And I had to start taking things out of my workout routines. And over time, I no longer would do deadlifts. Then I stopped doing squats. And it just kind of kept happening over and over. And then I would go to the chiropractor all the time. I would get massages. I would try all of these different stretches, acupuncture, um, I don't know, these different devices that are supposed to take pressure off certain areas. And then recently, maybe about a year ago, I thought, I can't take this anymore. There's just so many exercises that I keep pulling out of my routines because I'm terrified that I'm going to injure myself again. Because my hip would get thrown out like but anywhere between 2 and 2.5 inches. And there was a couple of times where I was in such a full body muscle spasm that I had to be carried in and out of the chiropractor's office. It was so bad. And he even told me the one I used to go to in Cincinnati, he would do some of the professional football players there. He said, this is one of the top three worst scenarios I've ever seen. Cause my one hip was out so far. It was rotated so far forward and raised up so much higher than my other hip. It looked like my body was in two pieces. I mean, seriously, the top of my body looked like it was completely shifted and not even a part of my lower body. So, I've had some serious issues, right? And I love being active and I love being strong and capable. And it for someone like me, it's very frustrating to feel like you have to continuously stop doing all of these exercises because of this back issue. So, about a year ago, and I also thought too, part of my problem was inflammation. So about 6 years ago, I did get on a bunch of inflammation supplements that help with inflammation in the body, which did help. It did help a lot because if I would throw my back out, I wasn't unable to move for 3 or 4 days, because when I used to do it before the supplements, I could not move. I mean, even just laying flat and taking a big, deep breath in, it would send my whole body into a muscle spasm. And if you've ever had that, it's very painful. So the supplements definitely help that when I would throw my hip out, I wouldn't, I could still move around and and I would recover much faster, but it was still happening. And there were still so many exercises like I couldn't do. Um, so then about a year ago, I thought, okay, I can't take this anymore. I don't accept this. There has to be something to be done about it. And so I started getting these ads, like we all do, that pop up. Everything's listening. I started getting these ads for functional fitness routines and functional fitness workouts. So there was a gym not very close by. It was about an hour away, but it was the only gym that did these types of exercise programs. So I started there, and it's all about mobility. So it's all mobility training, getting mobility back in your joints and all of those things, which in my mind, I'm like, this makes sense. So I started doing that. And yeah, I started to be able to incorporate some exercises that I had taken out, but I did kind of keep injuring myself. So it was working, but it wasn't. It was something was still missing. And one day, this another another ad popped up, and it was called Miracle Back Pain Relief. And it was this young guy, and he started talking, and the whole video, I want to say, was pretty long. It was like a 30-minute discussion on his life and his journey with his back pain, but it sounded so similar to mine that I was completely drawn in. And it's called a back pain miracle. Let's see if I can get this up without yeah. Okay. So the back pain miracle, and really the program is all about how you keep tension and trauma in your mind, because your mind controls your body, your muscles, and basically we kind of live with this tension, this like subconscious tension that we don't realize that we have, and it's constantly putting tension in certain areas of the body that are always keeping us injured. So I mean, it could be, which makes sense. And basically it was saying, if you took your skeleton and without muscles, without ligaments, and you just took the skeleton itself and you kind of moved it around, the skeleton would ideally just kind of go wherever without any resistance. With it would do exactly what it's supposed to do, right? You wouldn't have this like tense tension anywhere. The skeleton would just kind of flow. And I thought, okay, that's an interesting concept. And then it goes on to talk about how you really need to address the trauma. Why are you holding tension? Is it from a past injury? Is it from some sort of childhood trauma? It goes into all the reasons of why you might be holding this tension. And then it also kind of incorporates, it talks about, how when babies learn to crawl and then they learn to walk, basically all the movements they do to get their body ready for crawling, walking, running, jumping, and how that process starts. So it's all about starting very, very slowly, very minimally, not really doing anything that much other than lying flat on the ground, trying to be completely relaxed, feel where the tension is in your body, feel where you feel the pressure, the tension, and try to think about telling your brain to relax it, to relax that tension and let it go. And then it has these exercises that it takes you through, and it starts very minimally. These little tiny itty bitty exercises that you think aren't doing anything. But the point of it is, as you're doing it, to try to relax the area where you feel tension as much as possible until you feel your body release the tension. And the thing is it does. You can almost, I would say for me, mine felt more like scar tissue. Like maybe I had developed a lot of scar tissue throughout the years, but I eventually got up to certain exercises that I used to be really afraid to do. Nothing crazy, just certain movements that I used to have so much limitation. And the program wants you to actually get back into doing the exercises that you are afraid of slowly, and you build up to it. But when I would do the certain exercises that I had previously been afraid to do, or certain motions, I could, if I applied the principle of like letting go of the past injuries and the trauma and really trying to breathe through and relax those specific places, I would feel this kind of release of almost like a crunching feeling that's like popping apart, but it didn't, it felt more like scar tissue. Like I was breaking up scar tissue that was preventing me from doing these movements. So it's not very much. I think I saw this on Instagram. It's $47. It's very comprehensive, but out of all the things I've done in my life, I mean everything, maybe minus the supplements with the inflammation, because that's a pretty big thing too. But the chiropractors, the massage therapists, the stretching labs, um, taking things out of my routines and just not doing them. Out of everything I've ever tried, this has been the number one thing that has reduced my pain and allowed me to have so much more function, mobility, be able to do so many more exercises, move more freely and without pain. I mean, honestly, it's this is the number one thing. And it's funny too, because since I've been doing this program and reading through the concepts, I find myself sometimes, like if I bend over to pick something up from the car and, maybe I woke up that day because my back was a little tight, because sometimes it still is, depending on how I sleep at night. Um, but I recognize old habits I used to do to try to prevent it. For example, when I would bend over, I would notice I might like extra squeeze my stomach muscles or like squeeze another part of my body really tight to try to maybe stabilize that area. But that's actually the wrong, that's not what you're supposed to do. It's, you want to get your body. So then now if I go to do something and I feel a twinge, instead of tensing up, the first thing I do, if I feel a twinge, I relax. I try to make everything in my body as absolutely relaxed as possible. And that is so much of a better way to go about it, because what I have found for me is as soon as I can kind of like catch it and let everything relax as much as possible, it usually will subside within a couple seconds. Everything kind of relaxes and it's okay. And then I don't get that twinge. I don't get that weird feeling. I don't get the inflammation and then have to go to the chiropractor, that day. So if this is something you're dealing with and have been dealing with, this worked really well for me. So feel free to check it out if you have questions or, you know, any feedback. That's great. But like I said, this for me has been amazing. So I hope it helps you too.